Alright, hello. Welcome to my new series where I'm going to be trying to cover the war in Ukraine and giving that information to the rest of you guys. Um, this is something I don't know how long I'm going to do or if I'm going to continuously upload, but I'm trying my best on this channel. And I do plan on doing new gameplay like Hearts of Iron, Victoria 2, Hold Fast, and Hearthstone are the four major games I'm playing right now, and there might be other games that come up occasionally. I have done a vlog channel that I will probably link in the description that has more of my vlog side. And the key reason I haven't been uploaded is I've just been busy. I guess that's a really bad excuse, but I did move twice. I was on vacation for a bit, and then I got a summer job, so it's been a lot, to say the least. But regardless, I'm going to be looking at a few different maps, and in these maps, um, I'm going to cover the best of my knowledge what I can about the war in Ukraine and providing this information. A lot of it comes from the Project Owl Discord that I highly recommend. I think their Twitter is Project Owl. Um, these guys kind of cover everything, not just Russia, Ukraine. You can say on the side that they cover like Iran, nuclear discussions, um, and then a bunch of other information as big conflicts come up. So, I think the biggest issue with covering this war is that there's an information kind of vacuum when it comes to like who's saying what. You get this perspective of a lot of pro-Ukrainian sides over exaggerating and pro-Russian sides over exaggerating. So it's hard to find a neutral source. That's why I use LiveUAmap. They use precise information provided that will kind of dictate who controls what. So that's kind of one of the reasons I use this map, like I'll show you right now. Now, we're going to first cover the city of Severodonetsk. I don't know if I'm saying that right. I'm not Ukrainian, mind you, so if I say it poorly, forgive me. I'm trying my best. But the recent news is that Russia controls around 80% of the city, so LiveUAmap is not updated, but they're mostly all, the rest of the Ukrainian forces are all held up in this region of the Azot chemical plant. It's right around here, but this is a key point for Ukraine to control. Controlling this city kind of dictates the hold of the whole Donbass region to a degree. Obviously, they can leave the city and then still probably be able to hold behind defensive lines on the river. But if you look at this is the Luhansk National Republic. That's basically the self-proclaimed Russian puppet state. And the only cities they really need are the rest of Severodonetsk and pieces of Luhansk. And then there's also a few towns. So taking the city would be a huge PR win for both Russia and Ukraine. And it'd also probably be a site of heavy fighting. The Foreign Legion, if you do not know, is stationed there. And the Foreign Legion are international fighters fighting for Ukraine, which has kind of like been a pain in the ass for Russia for a while because they're some of the most heavily trained forces because of their background in special operations, tours in countries like Afghanistan, Iraq, Libya, etc. But here's the river. By the way, this is the Donetsk River. Controlling it kind of controls a large degree of the rest of the Luhansk National Republic and also allows a key defensive point for Ukrainians to fall back to if and when this city eventually does fall. So, like I said, holding the city is going to be detrimental for both sides, but it will matter a lot more for Russia than it will for Ukraine because the Ukrainians are only holding a small portion of the city, and even then they lost all the civilian parts. Russia's also pushing from the north and the south, and they've recently captured the town of Lesna Daka and Medokine, and they took the airport, which is a little bit south of there. So there it is. Like I said, that's probably it for that part. I do want to cover a few more important key cities, like I said, with Luhansk. But this is another major city. It's Slovansk. Taking that will be important because it's a huge transport hub for Ukrainian forces that has major highways connecting it. And it was the site of the first city liberated by Ukraine in 2014, so it matters a lot. Luhansk, another major city, like I've mentioned before, it's got another transport hub, and it's got a lot of Ukrainian forces stationed there. And then Bakhmut, which is kind of stationed on the river, and it also has another few highways connecting through it. So a lot of the cities Russia's trying to take is to improve their supply situation, which right now is very abysmal. There's another, like Russia has made progress taking smaller towns, but they haven't really taken major cities in this region besides, Mariupol, and that's probably about it. But this is also another town, Belohorivka. It's got a hill overlooking it. Ukraine has been trying to hold it for so long, and Russia's been hammering the town more and more, trying to cross the river, but they have not made any progress, but they're trying to. And then that's basically another major town. There's smaller towns that they're trying to push. But with that, I'm going to cover the Izium front, where there has been Ukrainian progress. Because Russia has trying to push down south towards Izium, or away from Izium, towards Slovansk. And Izium's a huge city that matters, like probably the most important town that Russia can hold right now in the Donbass region, just because it connects major supply lines. And Ukraine has made it a goal to try to liberate the town as best as they can. Town, city, same thing. It's not really a city if all the people abandoned the town because, Russia basically bombed it. But like here, I'm just pointing out a few different towns that Russia has liberated or not liberated, but captured in recent weeks that have kind of limited the Ukrainians' ability to hold the rest of the Luhansk area. They haven't made any progress down here towards Donetsk City, and they haven't made any progress since 2014, which shows how extensive Russia's defenses are in the area. There has been reports of a Ukrainian kind of counteroffensive in the Zaporizhian region. Don't know if I said that right. Once again, not Ukrainian. But I haven't seen anything mapped. It's not just that they haven't confirmed the territory's been taken. I just haven't seen anything physically mapped saying Ukraine liberated so-and-so towns. But this is probably the major goal right now for Ukraine in this region. This city connects 4 different roads, and taking it would cut off a lot of Russian supplies in the area and also alleviate a lot of pressure in this area if Ukraine were to move towards Mariupol and Verdansk, which is connected to the town by the roads. That also Tamak, which is like a center hold, that taking that would allow Russia kind of more ability to move their forces around out of Mariupol and out of Crimea. So, once again, haven't seen much, but I will update you guys if I see anything that will point out, where they're kind of making their offensive. But we're going to go into Izium next. So, Izium is a region that hasn't even been updated by LiveUA, but the importance of it, like I said, is detrimental to the Ukrainians' campaign. Taking it would put a lot of pressure on the Russian forces south of it. And it would also probably prevent any offensive on Slovansk and kind of limit their northern Donbass offensive. So that's probably the key points to why you'd want to take Izium. There are Ukrainian forces in this green area next to Izium you see on the west side. That's all forest, and that's where Ukrainians have kind of made their push. There's a lot of Ukrainian forces capturing the forest areas. But there's also been reports that they've captured the towns of Spikovaca and Zavodi, and they are making progress around that area. So we will see if they can continue to move from West Izium into Izium itself, which there are reports that they're around 10 to 15 kilometers from taking the city, which is extremely huge. It does put their artillery much closer to the front lines and allows them to shell Izium and the supply lines that run through it. If I was Ukraine, I'd probably go for the next town of Indravika. which would threaten supply lines even more and put them on the P-79 highway, which would allow them to move forces through and closer to Izium at a faster rate instead of going through a forest, which has very limited roads and mostly all dirt trails. So Izium's a front that I'm definitely going to be covering more as Ukrainian forces make more of a push there. And then the next region I want to kind of cover is the Cherson front. Cherson is a kind of an open air campaign right now. So there's not a lot of like high tactical ground. It's mostly all fields and open land, which has made it difficult for both sides to conquer territory and hold it. Now, as you see, Ukraine is very close to Cherson already. So taking Cherson would be an extremely big win for Ukraine. Ukrainian forces are already on the outskirts of these two towns, and they're already on the outskirts of Stanislav, which with Alexandria, which isn't really a town anymore, it's just a pile of rubble because both sides have kind of destroyed that place. But they're pushing south towards Stanislav and Shrolbaka. I've seen reports that Ukraine's main goal right now is to take this town of Tamna Balka. It connects a few different roads, and it also allows them to put Cherson more in shelling range, and Cherson International Airport, which is famous for having a large Russian fleet of helicopters there getting destroyed within the first few weeks because Russia was stupid and put all in there, which was in artillery range. The next town that Ukraine is going to be going for is this one. It's called Shinavaka. It connects a few different roads, and it also is a supply hub because it has a railroad connecting through it that also connects down the P-81. So taking it would cut off the supplies running from Crimea all the way up to there, and would limit their ability to resupply troops within these towns around this area. But yeah, and then the kind of railroad goes through these three different areas. It doesn't go up north towards this area that I'm going to be covering in a second, but like I said, Ukraine's going to want to take that town. Next, over here, Ukraine's made progress crossing the Anuts River, which, as you can see, is kind of around this area. And crossing the river is huge because it allows them to no longer be on the defensive trying to prevent Russia from crossing it, and now they're going on the offensive, trying to take the major towns in this area and try to cut off Ukrainian forces. This town is kind of what made it possible. Davydiv Bird, which was one of the first major towns they took when they crossed the Anuts River and allowed them to push even more and get a larger foothold across the river. If they want to continue to threaten Russian supply lines north of Kherson, or Cherson, or however you say it, taking that town and expanding it would be key, and then they can eventually go for Velika Alexandrovia, which is another major town that has huge supply ramifications, and it's also known to be the headquarters for the North Cherson Command. But like I am pointing out here, if they can continue to push south of Dranivbrid, they can cut off this entire Russian army that's held up here because there's no way to resupply them unless they got boats, which is going to be very limited to begin with, especially drones everywhere. There's no bridges, as you can see in this area, because of the reservoir, and Russia's already shortly staffed because most of their troops are in Cherson itself and not up north here, so they're very limited in what they can and cannot do. Russia could try to do a counteroffensive eventually, but right now they just don't have the troops for it, so holding this is probably not strategically valuable other than to prevent Ukrainians from moving in on Cherson. If Ukrainians somehow do manage to get all the way down towards Burislav, then this entire area would be encircled and Russia would be in serious danger. Now, I don't see that happening anytime soon. I haven't seen enough rapid advance from the Ukrainian forces to make that happen, but if they do, then this could potentially be very threatening to the Russian supply lines, like I said, and the North Crimean Canal. But other than that, taking the airport is probably another major goal they're going to try to go for in the coming weeks, but once again, it's very hard to gauge how effective this counteroffensive is, other than that they have made progress. So, I guess that's something I will probably try to be covering a bit more. And that's basically it for the war maps. If you guys want like another map to look at, I know Project Owl does one, but here's some news to round up the information for today. As you can see here, there's reports that 2 U.S. fighters were captured by Russia. It says in the Kharkiv region. Now that's not very general because Kharkiv goes like all around here, as I'm showing. Could have been near the Izium front. Could have been near North Kharkov. Could have been near Slavyansk. It's hard to say, but either way, this is a PR victory for Russia because that's exactly what they wanted to show the world, is that the West is providing manpower on top of weapons. But once again, they're foreign volunteers. They're not manpower provided by the West, which I think is kind of important to point out, that 2 veterans captured by Russia doesn't exactly show that they were provided by the U.S. But regardless, that's what Russia's going to try to show the world. I think it's interesting that you're seeing this more and more as the Foreign Legion is pushed to the front lines, that there's more and more foreign volunteers either killed, captured, or wounded. And I think that's going to be a major issue that Ukraine's going to have to overcome, is the PR disaster that's awaiting them because they are using Western forces so much. But the Western forces, like I said, are well trained, and they are going to be the reason that a lot of these towns are liberated, but with Ukrainian help, obviously. If Izium is captured, though, that's probably going to be a big difference maker. Finally, though, I want to show you guys this map that Project Owl provides. It's up to date to the best of their ability. They update it literally every day, and they show you what's updated. So they change the map every day with sourced information that they can provide, and it's geolocated most of the time. As you can see, it's it says 15/6, so like June 16th, June 15th, etc., etc. And then the last thing I wanted to cover is the War Monitor Twitter account. His name is War Monitor 3 on Twitter. His information is usually pretty accurate. He tends to be very pro-Ukrainian, but once again, that doesn't exactly make his information wrong. It just makes it a little bit more standout-ish in how he says things. It's not always the most, provided, but he does have a lot of sources, and he tends to do a great job usually providing for the information there. So other than that, I wanted to thank you all for watching. I look forward to doing this more. Anyways, thanks guys, and have a good one.